Om Jnana Tamarandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vesubhana Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarabhischa Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitinam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mare Kabando Matsangin Madguro Manmadana Madnistara Kamar Bhagya Marananda Namostate Asaru Saru Tadayanati Nicho Chatakara Namuncha Karachin Mam Premna Hitkatayospara Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Preshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna, everybody. So, we'll continue today with our very means of conquest, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're starting to see who really cares about Srimad Bhagavatam. The same standard faces always show. And not that they don't care, but just that you guys care about coming here and had the time. But anyways, this is the real nectar of life, to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. And yeah. So we're on the prayers of Queen Kunti. And I believe we're just starting text 7, which is one of my favorite verses. These verses were Uttara, mother of Maharaj Pariksit, is really crying out for help. So this is just taking place right after the Kurukshetra war, and there was the whole Ashwatthama incident, which we discussed pretty extensively. Ashwatthama was attempting to kill the Pandava sons, but he killed the Pandavas, but he killed the Pandava sons. And then there was an incident. Arjuna and Krishna chased him down, fight him like an animal. Then there was a fight as to what they should do with him. Of course, Bhima wanted to kill him. Yudhishthira said no. Draupadi said no. I don't want to make Gandhari go through that. So, not Gandhari, I'm sorry, Kriti. So there was a fight, and the conclusion was that Arjuna chopped the hair of Ashwatthama and the jewel off of his head. And then he tries something else, right? They thought they finished him, and then he's going to come back. So text number 7. Amantra Pandu Putramscha Saineyo Dava Samyuta Dvaipanya Dibir Viprai Pujita. Translation. Lord Sri Krishna then prepared for his departure. He invited the sons of Pandu. After having been worshipped by the Brahmanas, headed by Srila Vyasadeva, the Lord also reciprocated greetings. Apparently, Lord Krishna was a Kshatriya and was not worshipable by the Brahmanas. But the Brahmanas present there, headed by Srila Vyasadeva, all knew him to be the personality of Godhead, and therefore they worshipped him. The Lord reciprocated the greetings just to honor the social order that a Kshatriya is obedient to the orders of Brahmanas. Although Lord Sri Krishna was always offered respects due to the Supreme Lord from all responsible quarters, for all responsible quarters, the Lord never deviated from the customary usages between the 4 orders of society. The Lord purposely observed all these social customs so that others would follow him in the future. The example here is that we should follow the rules of social etiquette. And our life will be peaceful and is pleasing to Krishna. It's one of the easiest ways we can please Krishna is just follow the rules, of social etiquette. Women, men, brahmacharis, grihastas, those living in the temple. We just live accordingly, then we can find our lives very peaceful and set an example. And it does make a difference if you think that, setting an example is not, oh, people aren't watching me or something like that. Actually, they are. And I see it all the time. Kantum krita matir brahman dwarkakam ratam ashtita upale be davantim uttarambaya vivalam. As soon as he seated himself on the chariot to start for Dwarka, he saw Uttara hurrying toward him in fear. So the purport is just explaining that Krishna is always attentive to the protection of his devotees. We should always be aware of that. Krishna is my protector. And so we may find ourselves in circumstances where we're needing protection. We can always rely on Krishna to protect us. Sometimes devotees think, oh, let me go for, I don't want to ask Krishna anything. But actually, Krishna is always protecting us. And we should think, Krishna, protect me. That's actually a sign of a pure devotee. And it's described by our acharyas that, if something happens to a devotee, some type of fearful moment, and they take shelter of Krishna, this is not a breach in their pure devotional service. This is just a natural reaction because due to intense fearful situation. This is a very famous verse. I like this verse a lot. Uttaro vacha pahi pahi ma yogin deva deva jagatpate nanyam twadabhayam pashye yatra mrityu parashparam. Uttara said, O Lord of Lords, Lord of the universe, you are the greatest of mystics. Please protect me, for there is no one else who can save me from the clutches of death in this world of duality. Verse worthy of memorizing. Muna, can you read some purport?
This material world is a world of duality, in contrast with the oneness of the absolute realm. The world of duality is composed of matter and spirit, whereas the absolute world is complete spirit without any tinge of material qualities. In the dual world, everyone is falsely trying to become the master of the world, whereas in the absolute world of the Lord is the absolute Lord, and all others are his absolute servitors. In the world of duality, everyone is envious of all others, and death is inevitable due to the dual existence of matter and spirit. The Lord is the only shelter of fearlessness for the surrendered soul. One cannot save himself from the cruel hands of death in the material world without having surrendered himself at the lotus feet of the Lord.
Okay, and the acharyas have stated that, Krishna is thinking, are you praying for your life? Because it's unexpected that someone would pray for their own lives, but we see that she's actually praying for the life of her son. Abhidravati mamisha sharastaptasyaso vibhu kamam dahatu mam nata mam me garbo nipatyatam. Oh my Lord, you are all powerful. A fire iron arrow is coming towards me fast. My Lord, let it burn me personally, if you so desire, but please do not let it burn and abort my embryo. Please do this favor for my Lord. Please do me this favor, my Lord. The incident took place after the death of Abhimanyu, the husband of Uttara. Abhimanyu's widow, Uttara, should have followed the path of her husband, but because she was pregnant and Maharaj Parikshit, a great devotee of the Lord, was lying in embryo, she was responsible for his protection. Mother of a child has great responsibility in giving all protection to the child, and therefore Uttara was not ashamed to express this frankly before Lord Krishna. Uttara was the daughter of a great king, the wife of a great hero, and the student of a great devotee. Later, she was the mother of a good king also. She was fortunate in every respect. So this is standard mother prayer. She's praying for the life of her child, and Prabhupada's expressing the importance that a mother has to take care of children. And this is the prime duty of someone who's a mother. And so this is the problem we have in the world today, is that the dharma of a woman in many cases, not all cases, I'm not being exclusive, but women usually become pregnant and have children. And so if that's the case, then there's responsibilities, dharmas, and karmas that come with that, And so therefore, all individuals in that position have to take priority and rise up to that dharma. This is just being responsible. We can try to spiritualize so many things, and the tendency is to do that. The tendency is to read the Bhagavatam and see the devotees, and there is a mystic element of Krishna consciousness, but there's also a very practical element, and that practical element is that one who's going to engage in a sexual relationship has every potentiality of becoming pregnant, and therefore there should be responsibility taken. It's simple as that. And so, the scriptural injunction given by Lord Rishabdev is that one should not become a father, spiritual master, a mother, a guru, or a worshipful demigod or a king if they are unable to deliver their dependence to Krishna consciousness. And so, how do we know we're able to deliver our dependence to Krishna consciousness? Very difficult to tell. But a good judge is, are we able to ourselves remain in Krishna consciousness? And children always tend to see Krishna consciousness in the same way the parents see it. So if parents are very serious, going to Mangalartik, really following regulative principles, chanting good japa, and children are going to see this. And they're going to at least know what genuine Krishna consciousness is. And of course, there's so many elements to that happen even before, conception, the Garbhadan samskara, and so forth. So we have to be honest with ourselves in all respects. Next 11. Sutta uvacha, upadarya vachasthasya bhagavan bhaktavatsalah apandavam midam kartum draunir astram abudyata. Sutta Goswami said, having patiently heard her words, Lord Sri Krishna, who is always very affectionate to his devotees, could at once understand that Ashvatthama, the son of Dronacharya, had thrown the Brahmastra to finish the last life in the Pandava family. So we're seeing Ashvatthama's very, very dark person, very envious, trying to, even after being killed, being defeated by the Pandavas, or killing 5 of their children, he wants to once again do this to finish them off out of envy and hate. Prabhupada is stating that the Lord is impartial in every respect, but he is still inclined towards his devotees because there is a great necessity of this for everyone's well-being. The Pandava family was a family of devotees, and therefore the Lord wanted them to rule the world. That was the reason he vanquished the rule of the company of Duryodhana and established the rule of Maharaj Yudhisthira. Therefore, he also wanted to protect Maharaj Parikshit, who was lying in embryo. He did not like the idea that the world should be without the Pandavas, the ideal family of devotees. Taryevata muni shreshta pandava panchasayakan atmano bimukan diptan alakshyashtan yupadadu. Or foremost among great thinkers, Chanaka. Seeing the glaring Brahmastra proceeding towards them, the Pandavas took up their 5 respective weapons. We can read the purport.
The Brahmastras are finer than nuclear weapons. Ashwatthama discharged the Brahmastra simply to kill the Pandavas, namely the 5 brothers headed by Maharaja Yudhishthira and their only grandson, who was lying within the womb of Uttara. Therefore, the Brahmastra, more effective and finer than the atomic weapons, was not as blind as the atomic bombs. When atomic bombs are discharged, they do not discriminate between target and others. Mainly, the atomic bombs do harm to the innocent because there is no control. The Brahmastra is not like that. It marks out the target and proceeds accordingly without harming the innocents.
So this is the point being made here, is that the Brahmastra is a finer form of a nuclear weapon, which is directed at individuals rather than large groups. Vyasanam vikshatatesham ananya vishayatmanam sudarshanena swastrena swanam raksham vyadad vibhu. The Almighty Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, having observed that a great danger was befalling his unalloyed devotees, who were fully surrendered souls, at once took up his Sudarshan dish to protect them. Brahmastra, the supreme weapon released by Ashvatthama, was something similar to a nuclear weapon, but with more radiation and heat. The Brahmastra is the product of a more subtle science, being the product of a finer sound, a mantra recorded in the Vedas. Another advantage of this weapon is that it is not blind like the nuclear weapons, because it is directed only to the target and nothing else. Ashvatthama released the weapon just to finish all the male members of the Pandu's family. Therefore, in one sense, it was more dangerous than the atomic bombs because it could penetrate even the most protected place and would never miss the target. Knowing all this, Lord Sri Krishna at once took up his personal weapon to protect his devotees, who did not know anyone other than Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has clearly promised that his devotees are never to be vanquished, and he behaves according to the quality or degree of devotional service rendered by the devotees. Here the word Ananya Vishayat Manam is significant. The Pandavas were 10% dependent on the protection of the Lord, although they were all great warriors themselves. But the Lord neglects even the greatest warriors and also vanquishes them in no time. When the Lord saw that there was no time for the Pandavas to counteract the Brahmastra of Ashvatthama, he took up his weapon even at the risk of breaking his own vow. Although the battle of Kurukshetra was almost finished, still, according to his vow, he should not have taken up his own weapon. But the emergency was more important than the vow. He is better known as Bhaktavatsala, or the lover of the devotee. And thus he preferred to continue as Bhaktavatsala than to be a worldly moralist who never breaks his solemn vow. So, important point that Krishna is always Bhaktavatsala, that he'll bend the rules for the devotees. And he does. We see that with devotees so much of the time that, Krishna will bend the rules, his own rules. The devotees can become placed in a decent situation. So we're all potential, receivers of this mercy. And we should, depend upon that mercy completely, understand Krishna's doing what's best for me, and he has a plan. And that consciousness really will save one from all of the suffering of the world, the misery and the anxiety. Of course, the famous verse Prabhupada gives is the peace formula. Anybody know? You know, Jamuna? You know the verse, but you know the verse I'm talking about. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam yatamam shantam richati. So Krishna's, this is the formula for peace. Krishna is Bhoktaram yagya tapasam. So all of the yagya and the tapas that we do, we're always going to do austerity for so many things. So whatever we're going through, whatever austerity we're performing, whatever difficulties we're going through, whatever yagya we're performing in terms of our dharma, we all have a dharma. We have the, Griha dharma, brahmachari dharma, sannyas dharma, whatever our dharma is, we're doing that for Krishna. We're doing it for Krishna, but people don't realize that. And therefore, they have to make plans to make things happen in their lives, whereas Krishna will arrange everything accordingly and appropriately. So we should understand that all the things are happening according to Krishna's plan, and that we're performing the yagya for Krishna. And Krishna is the Maheshwara. He is the Sarvaloka Maheshwara. He's the controller of everything. So everything we're doing for Krishna, and Krishna is in control of everything. So if Krishna is in control of everything, then that's kind of scary. We can admit that we're not in control, which is a very hard thing for people to admit, that I'm not in control of this. But when we understand that Krishna is Suridam Sarvabhutanam, that he's actually the friend of every living entity, that everything that is happening is for my benefit and for my rectification, my purification, and ultimately so that I can come to a higher state of being. If we understand these three things, Prabhupada says, you can become peaceful. Krishna says you can become peaceful. But Prabhupada emphatically said so many times that this series of understandings is the way to have perfect peace in life. That Krishna is the supreme proprietor, Krishna is the supreme friend, and Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. That's it. You can understand that. Krishna is the supreme proprietor. the supreme friend and supreme enjoyer. And then you'll be peaceful all the time. Now, that is the greatest gift one can have, is that sense of peace. And understanding that on a practical level is not just a matter of intellectually, wheeling that around in your mind. There is an element of, the Christians say we got to get prayed up. You got to get prayed up. And that means, if you actually take sadhana seriously, where that Maha Mantra goes into the heart, and you go down every morning, you go in to the ocean of Krishna, and you come out and you're like, you're filled with that radiance, that all the waves of the world won't affect you. You'll be strong. You'll be able to handle all the things that are coming towards you, and you'll be purified in that way. (14) Antashta sarvabhutanam atma yogeshvaro hari swamaya ya vrinod garbam varyatya kurutantave. The Lord of the Supreme Mysticism, Sri Krishna, resides within everyone's heart as the Paramatma. As such, just to protect the progeny of the Kuru dynasty, he covered the embryo of Uttara by his personal energy. Let's continue in purport, just expressing the verse. Next verse, 15. Yadyap yastram brahma shiras tvamogam cha pratikriyam vaishnavam teja asadya samasham yad brigodvaha. O Shanaka, glory of Brigu's family, although the supreme Brahmastra weapon released by Ashwatthama was irresistible and without check or counteraction, it was neutralized and foiled when confronted by the strength of Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Brahma Jyoti, or the glowing transcendental effulgence, is resting on Lord Sri Krishna. In other words, the glowing effulgence known as Brahma Tejas is nothing but the rays of the Lord, just as the sun rays are the rays of the sun. So this Brahma weapon also, although materially irresistible, could not surpass the supreme strength of the Lord. The weapon called Brahmastra, unleashed by Ashwatthama, was neutralized and foiled by Lord Sri Krishna by his own energy, and thus is to say he did not wait for any other's help, because he is absolute. I want to pause here for a second. And, one of the focuses of this class is that the devotees who are attending regularly are not just developing philosophy, but developing wisdom. And wisdom means there's a deeper level, that one can go and they can sit on the Vyasa, they can give class on philosophy all day. We can speak, oh, you're not this body, surrender to Krishna. We can speak like that. But there's a different level, or a deeper level, where when they hear these pastimes in like connection in relation to everything that's going on, we can develop chunks of wisdom. What is the Bhagavatam actually trying to tell us? What is the message here that the Bhagavatam is trying to express to us? And there are very evident themes in the Bhagavatam that make it the supreme wisdom, that really give it that sense that this is the supreme wisdom, that there is no other scripture necessary beside Srimad Bhagavatam. So I want to ask the devotees here, what are we learning from this?
All situations.
Yeah, okay, depending on Krishna. Yeah. What else? Yes, Krishna is always favorable toward the devotees. What else? Anything else you can think of? Yeah. That's nice. That's more of a fact, because we don't have to deal with Brahmastras usually, but yeah, so there's an obvious piece of wisdom here that Krishna is that the wisdom is coming through, that Krishna is our protector. Krishna is our friend. Krishna is the one we should take shelter of. He's the Ashraya. And you can kind of break the whole Bhagavatam down so far that we've gone through. There's these themes. One theme is that we should speak about Krishna, that all of the literatures are mundane, that you're not going to be satisfied unless you absorb yourself in the pastimes of the Lord and the teachings of the Lord. So in that way, we're starting to see themes of wisdom here. And then on another level, besides that wisdom level, then there's the level of what's actually happening in the story. We're hearing about the birth of Parikshit that's been asked, because this is the history of how the Bhagavatam is spoken. So text 16. And we're gonna start the prayers of Queen Kunti today, it looks like. Mamam stahyatar ashcharyam sarvashcharyam ayechute yaidam mayaya devya shrijadyavati hantyajaha. O Brahmanas, do not think this to be especially wonderful in the activities of the mysterious and infallible personality of Godhead. By his own transcendental energy, he creates, maintains, and annihilates all material things, although he himself is unborn. So the whole message here is no one's greater than the Lord. And that, the Lord, Prabhupada says that many times, the Lord does very many wonderful things, but we shouldn't think, oh, this is so wonderful, because it's really nothing for Krishna. Lifting Govardhan Hill is nothing for Krishna. There's nothing wonderful for Krishna, because Krishna is maintaining, creating, and destroying everything by his own willpower. So Krishna is all around just wonderful. And therefore, we don't want to try to understand the Lord, in terms of power level, in terms of, measurable qualities. We want to love the Lord. And so we should be amazed and inspired by the Lord's power and the Lord's opulence, the Lord's love, all these elements of the Lord. We could be inspired by that. 17. Brahma Tejo Vinir Muktar Atmaja Saha Krishnaya Prayana Bhimukham Krishnam Idam Aha Pratasati. Thus saved from the radiation of the Brahmastra, Kunti, the chaste devotee of the Lord, and her 5 sons, and Draupadi, addressed the Lord Krishna as he started home. Kunti is described herein as sati, or chaste, due to her unalloyed devotion to Lord Sri Krishna. Her mind will now be expressed in the following prayers for the Lord Krishna. A chaste devotee of the Lord does not look to others, namely any other living being or demigod, even for the deliverance from danger. That was all along the characteristic of the whole family of the Pandavas. They knew nothing except Krishna, and therefore the Lord was always ready to help them in all respects and in all circumstances. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord. He reciprocates the dependence of the devotee. That's a very powerful statement. He reciprocates the dependence of the devotee. One should not, therefore, look for help from imperfect living beings or demigods. One should look for all help from Lord Krishna, who is competent to save his devotees. Such a chaste devotee also never asks the Lord for help, but the Lord, out of his own accord, is always anxious to render it. So, the Lord reciprocates the dependence of his devotee. So we have to be dependent. Not so easy in the material world to be dependent. Most people want to be independent. We want to be dependent on the Lord. And so if you're really dependent on the Lord, that means you're happy. You're not disturbed. You're strong. And it'll show in your business. What is your business? What are you attempting to do every day? Service your business? Is chanting your business? Is Krishna consciousness your business? Or is my business doing everything independently? And so the Pandavas, although engaged in many worldly affairs, were always dependent upon Krishna. They were fully dependent upon Krishna. And so in this way, they were very dear to the Lord. And so we don't want to look toward, any other living being for the fulfillment of our desires, for our happiness, for our satisfaction, because then there's only one guarantee that we'll be disappointed. So then the ways of the Lord is always eager to help such a soul who's dependent on the Lord. And that's what, when this lack of dependence appears, when we become unhappy and dissatisfied with our circumstances in material life, that's called matsarya. That's called envy. That sense of dissatisfaction is envy. That's the real definition of matsarya, is that I'm just not okay with what the Lord is providing. And I'm unsatisfied. And so there's a point here I was thinking that Kunti is described here in the sati due to her chaste, unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. So this chaste, unalloyed devotion to Krishna, this is what we want. And in that way, we'll always be so happy, because everybody's craving intimacy with something and somebody. And this is an important point here, that Kunti is about to reveal her mind to Krishna. And so, I'm on this word kick here with this word meant. Meant means mind. And so there's so many things, like government means literally to control the mind. So intimate means to actually connect mind to mind. People think intimacy means physical intimacy so much of the time, but that's not real intimacy. Intimacy actually means, how can you reveal your mind to someone? What does it mean to reveal your mind? It means to actually have a deep conversation with someone. And so Krishna wants to be intimate with you. And so therefore we should reveal our mind to Krishna. We should speak to Krishna. We should be intimate with Krishna. And then we should understand the mind of Krishna. And understand the mind of Krishna means we can actually really render good service to Krishna, because we understand, what does Krishna want? That comes from association with the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas. What is it that Krishna wants? Krishna loves the devotees. We can serve the devotees. Krishna loves to spread Krishna consciousness. We can spread Krishna consciousness. We can speak Krishna consciousness. In that way, we can become intimate with Krishna. Okay, text 18. Namasye Purusham Tvadyam Ishvaram Prakrite. Oh, I forgot it. Ishvara Prakrite Param Alaksham Sarvabhutanam Antir Bahiravashkita. So now we've entered the prayers of Queen Kunti. Sri Kunti said, "O Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you, because you are the original personality and are unaffected by the qualities of the material world. You are existing both within and without everything, yet you are invisible to all." So Kunti is going to pour her heart out here. And this is a way we can pray to Krishna, that she starts off by acknowledging Krishna's position. And so Prabhupada writes very extensive purports in these prayers. Such an enlightened lady could not commit a mistake by offering obeisances to her nephew. So she was aware of Krishna's position, and therefore she's addressing him as the original Purusha beyond all material cosmos. So she's first off stating who Krishna is. He is described here as the chief of all living entities. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. He's the controller. Prabhupada says here, he said, the living entities or the demigods like Chandra and Surya are all to some extent Ishvara, but none of them is the supreme Ishvara or the ultimate controller. So we're all a controller to some degree or another. We're all a controller to some degree or another, but Krishna is the supreme controller. And so everything we have control of is under Krishna. He is both within and without. The Lord is, so to speak, a puzzle for the common man, Prabhupada says. Queen Kunti experienced personally that Lord Krishna was present before her, yet entered within the womb of Uttara to save her embryo from the attack of Ashwatthama's Brahmastra. Kunti herself was puzzled about whether Sri Krishna is the all-pervasive or localized. In fact, he is both. But he reserves the right of not being exposed to persons who are not surrendered souls. This checking curtain is called Maya, energy, of the Supreme Lord, and it controls the limited vision of the rebellious soul. It is explained as follows. So Kunti's really going to be philosophical here, so really powerful. Maya javnika chanam agya doksa jamavyanam na lakshyase muda drisha nato natyo daro yata. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. God, so deep. Go ahead and read the purport.
The Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna affirms that less intelligent persons mistake him to be an ordinary man like us, thus they deride him. The same is confirmed herein by Queen Kunti. The less intelligent persons are those who rebel against the authority of the Lord. Such persons are known as asuras. The asuras cannot recognize the Lord's authority. When the Lord himself appears among us as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, or in his original form as Krishna, he performs many wonderful acts which are humanly impossible. As we shall see in the 10th canto of this great literature, Lord Shri Krishna exhibited his humanly impossible activities even from the days of his lying on the lap of his mother. He killed the Putana witch, although she smeared her breast with poison just to kill the Lord. The Lord sucked her breast like a natural baby, and he sucked out her very life also. Similarly, he lifted Govardhana Hill, just as a boy picks up a frog's umbrella, and stood several days continuously just to give protection to the residents of Vrindavan. These are some of the superhuman activities of the Lord.
We can pause here for a second. So I'm just going to go some highlights Prabhupada has in this purport. Prabhupada says, for less intelligent persons, bowing down before the Lord is generally done in temples, mosques, or churches, is as beneficial as it is for advanced devotees who meditate on him by active service. So some people are not ready for active service, so they're just, just temple devotees, they're just going to bow down, go to the temple, and they're not understanding that element that I'm going to do service for Krishna. But the main points here are Krishna is covered by the curtain of Maya. He's beyond sense perception and unaffected, invisible to the foolish observer. So Krishna is beyond our senses. So how do we see Krishna if Krishna is beyond our senses? What's the process for seeing Krishna? Krishna is beyond the senses. How do we do that? I mean, still, we have to be able to perceive someone to develop love for them.
Purify our senses.
Yes, Krishna says, Atashri Krishna Namadi, Nabavet Gramindriyai, Sevam Mukhe hi Jivadao Swayameva Svarat Yadaha. He says in Bhagavad Purana, Atashri Krishna Namadi. It's stated that the name Krishna, Nam Adi, the name, form, pastimes, characteristics, and personality of Krishna, Nabhaved Gramindriyai, they're not perceivable by the senses. So animals, all these things, they're not perceiving Krishna if we're just in the senses. We have to develop higher consciousness to perceive Krishna. Seva mukhe hi jivada, but by seva, especially with the jihva, the tongue, one can develop this understanding that comes mainly from taking prasadam and from chanting the holy name. One can develop this vision of Krishna. And then Swayameva Svaradyada, Krishna will reveal himself as such a devotee. Therefore, this element of chanting is very important because this is the main service by which we're able to perceive Krishna. Chanting and speaking, we can really then begin to perceive Krishna through that chanting. And so the chanting has to be very good, very clear, and done in a service attitude. Like any service we do, we want it to be done nicely, with full consciousness, full awareness, and enthusiasm. So in this way we can focus on this chanting, and that will reveal so much. And to that degree, we really increase and improve our chanting. We'll have a higher perception of Krishna, and that higher perception of Krishna gives us faith, gives us hope, gives us so much, mercy. So there's 2 points here that are made too that our Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur brings up, that Kunti's saying, you are the original person, meaning you're not my nephew. You're the original person, actually. You're the supreme controller beyond everything. And you're invisible to everybody, though you exist inside and outside me. And Krishna is thinking, if I'm within and without, why does nobody approach me? And so Kunti's answering that by saying, you're covered by the curtain of Maya. No one can see you. You're beyond the senses. You're unaffected. You're invisible to the foolish who are in the modes. And therefore, you're like an actor. You come here as an actor. Krishna's acting. He's acting like, all these things, but actually he's God. And so, if Krishna walked in the door right now, would we recognize him? We should ask ourselves that question. Do we have the ability to recognize Krishna if we saw him? Do we have that ability to see and recognize, a devotee's position? Because sometimes if we're filled up with envy and self-thought, we think, we're always trying to rationalize what type of devotee we are. We're thinking like that. We don't actually see the glories of other devotees. We're not able to see how a devotee is, glorious in their service. We can't actually perceive that because we're always, I'm better than this devotee, or I'm doing, good myself, or at least I'm doing this. And in this way, we're unable to perceive, and this is actually envy of Krishna. It's envy of Krishna. So, just as Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wasn't able to recognize Lord Chaitanya until he received the mercy of Chaitanya, we aren't able to see the glory of a devotee if we're in this position. And so when you see that a devotee is not properly recognizing the glories of other devotees, you can understand that this devotee would not be able to recognize and perceive Krishna's glories. They're neophyte. So then Krishna is saying, but you can see and praise me. Why do you call yourself ignorant? She's saying, you can see me, so why are you calling yourself ignorant? So this is a very famous and somewhat controversial verse. Next verse. Tata paramahamsanam muninam mamalatmanam bhakti yoga vidanartam katam pashye mahistriya. You yourself descend to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service under the hearts of advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How then can we women perfectly know you? Even the greatest philosophical speculators cannot have access to the region of the Lord. It is said in the Upanishads that the supreme absolute truth, the absolute personality of Godhead, is beyond the range of the thinking power of the greatest philosopher. He is unknowable by great learning or by the greatest brain. He is knowable only by one who has his mercy. Others may go on thinking about him for years together, yet he is unknowable. This very fact is corroborated by the queen, who is playing the part of an innocent woman. Women in general are unable to speculate like philosophers, but they are blessed by the Lord because they believe at once in the superiority and almightiness of the Lord, and thus they offer obeisances without reservation. The Lord is so kind that he does not show special favor only to one who is a great philosopher. He knows the sincerity of purpose. For this reason, only women generally assemble in great number in any sort of religious function. In every country and in every sect of religion, it appears that women are more interested than the men. This simplicity of acceptance of the Lord's authority is more effective in the showy, insincere religious fervor. Oh, wow. In the showy, insincere religious fervor. So that's an example there. There's a showy, insincere religious fervor, and then there's real religious fervor. Hare Krishna, Jima. Thank you. We don't want to be in that showy, insincere religious fervor. We don't want to follow into that group. And that's, that generally manifests as taking all the externals overly serious and not realizing the essence. That we want to, it's like the Pharisees or the Smarta Brahmins. There's so many examples and so many stories of this type of thing going on, that someone may be very apparently learned, apparently understanding the rituals very well, apparently very clean and pure. But, like Jesus said, your hearts are rotten, because you don't understand the reality, which is love of the Lord, cry for Krishna. And so in our movement, this manifests generally as taking that which is secondary as primary and taking that which is primary as secondary. What is primary? Reading, chanting. Pretty much it. That's primary, reading and chanting. Devotee reads well and chants, or hears well and chants, hears Prabhupada's lectures, hears nicely and chants nicely, and, enthusiastically attends, the kirtans and the sankirtan, the preaching, and this devotee will be, very elevated and beautiful in their consciousness. The devotees who take all the various details overly seriously, not to be neglected, but take them overly seriously, they tend to make offenses due to thinking they're better or so many things. The example that I've seen most is that, there's the chocolate controversy, and I don't want to get into it, but many of the times, and my Guru Maharaj says this, the devotees who are extremely anti-chocolate, sometimes they don't chant their rounds, or, you'll find that there's some thing going on, but they're making a big deal of this little thing, but the big things aren't being expressed. And so we want to be, aware that Krishna is all merciful. Not to neglect the principles of Krishna consciousness or the details. We want to follow them the best we can. We should understand that the details are for our purification, and they're not for show. They're for our purification, and we take them in that regard. Not that we take them as I'm right and you're wrong. Like the Lord doesn't need you to worship his deity. He does not need it. It's not required. Deity is for you. The deity is for you to render service. And so if you take it in the wrong way, then you're finding a way to render service to yourself. So it's important to understand this. So then there's the famous element here that, Prabhupada's going to make this point periodically in this chapter, that women in general are unable to speculate like philosophers, but they are blessed by the Lord because they believe at once in the superiority and almightiness of the Lord. So there's two different natures here. And people would say, sometimes people get very heavy and controversial about this, but women are generally less philosophical, less analytical. Men are analytical. That's the nature of male energy. Analytical, far-seeing. Women are more nourishing, nurturing, and naturally they're more submissive. And so therefore they have this ability to submit. And therefore it's the importance of protection of women can be emphasized, that women have to be protected in terms of idea, in terms of consciousness, in terms of, the world is trying to cheat women into becoming society girls, as they say. But, the men who are actually genuinely looking after and doing that service need to protect them from the idea that this is a type of enjoyment that, you'll be liberated if you kill your child, if you, have so much illicit sex. This is a horrible thing to do to society. And this is the single reason why society is failing, why our American society is suffering so badly, is because, yes, Prabhu.
Well, I heard something recently that I thought was really spot on. This guy was saying that our society sells vice as freedom. Like the very things that keep you in bondage, our society sells as freedom. I can have sex with so many people. I can have all these things. I can drink in excess. I can eat whatever I want. And they think this is freedom, but it's actually their bondage.
Yeah. Krishna says that following the regulative principles of freedom, one can attain the full mercy of the Lord. And so, you become free when you become relaxed and you don't have to do all this stuff, This freedom is not freedom. It's like I have the freedom to go walk onto the roof and jump off, but I'm not going to do it. When we have that freedom, I can go kill myself. I can go run into First Avenue in front of a car if I wanted, but I'm not going to do it. I have that freedom. And so, you have the freedom to commit a crime, but you don't have the freedom to avoid the law. And so we have the freedom to do these things. We don't have the freedom to avoid the consequences. And when you ignore the divine law, when you ignore the element of creation that there is a divine law, there's a law of love in this universe, and that we have to follow that law of love. We have to follow the heart and do the right thing. If we avoid that, then we're gonna be misguided all the time. This is freedom. This is what. Because in this way, we're being systematically trained to avoid our conscious. Our conscious is not there. And so in that way, let me exploit. Let me do so many things. Yeah, it's kind of sad. Let's see this next one. Okay, we'll read the next verse. This is a very special verse. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Nice prayer. We should memorize this prayer if possible. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and is the enlivener of the cows and senses. Govindaya Namo Namaha. The Lord, being thus unapproachable by any material assets, out of unbounded and causeless mercy, descends to the earth as he is in order to show his special mercy upon his unalloyed devotees, and to diminish the earth upsurges of the demoniac person. Queen Kunti specifically adores the incarnation or descent of Lord Krishna above all other incarnations, because in this particular incarnation he is more approachable. In the Rama incarnation, he has remained as a king's son from his very childhood. But in the incarnation of Krishna, although he was the son of a king, he at once left the shelter of his real father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, just after his appearance, and went to the lap of Yashoda Mai, to play the part of an ordinary cowherd boy in the blessed Vrajbhumi, which is very sanctified because of his childhood pastimes. Therefore, Lord Sri Krishna is more merciful than Lord Rama. He was undoubtedly very kind to Kunti's brother Vasudeva and the family. He had not become the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. Queen Kunti could not claim him to be her nephew. Had he not become the queen of Vasudeva and Devaki, he cannot claim to be her nephew, and thus address Krishna in this parental affection. But Nanda and Yashoda are more fortunate because they could relish the Lord's childhood pastimes, which are more attractive than all other pastimes. There is no parallel to his childhood pastimes as exhibited in Brajabhumi, which are replicas of his eternal affairs in the original Krishna Loka, described as Chintamani Dham in the Brahma Samhita. Lord Sri Krishna descended himself at Brajbhumi with all his transcendental entourage and paraphernalia. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore confirmed that no one is as fortunate as the residents of Brajbhumi, and specifically the cowherd girls, who dedicated their everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. His pastimes with Nanda and Yashoda and his pastimes with the cowherd men are especially with the cowherd boys and the cows have caused him to be known as Govinda. Lord Krishna as Govinda is more inclined to the brahmanas and the cows, indicating thereby that human prosperity depends more on these two items, namely Brahminical culture and cow protection. Lord Krishna is never satisfied where these are lacking. So Krishna is more merciful than other incarnations because he is, he's Krishna. He's just a cowherd boy. And Nanda and Yashoda are more fortunate because they relish these pastimes in Vrindavan. And they're the most attractive pastimes. So this is the sweetness of Krishna. Krishna has 4 distinct qualities that no other incarnation has. Krishna has how many qualities? Krishna has 64 qualities. How many qualities does Brahma have?
78.
No.
Brahma
has
78% of that, though, right?
Brahma has 50 qualities. Yes, 78% of that. And Vishnu has 60 qualities. So Krishna has these 4 qualities. He has Bhakti Madhuri. Krishna's devotees are the most beautiful. They're the most sweet. Bhakti Madhuri. Vamsi Madhuri. Krishna is the sweetest flute player. He's the sweetest player of the flute. Leela Madhuri. Krishna is he has the sweetest leelas. His leelas are very special and sweet. Nothing can compare to the rasa dance and these sweet leelas of love that Krishna exhibits. And Rupa Madhuri. Krishna's form is more beautiful. It's his sweetest form. It's very sweet compared to all other forms of the Lord. So in this way, Krishna is the complete personality of Godhead. And Madhuri means sweet, right? Sweetness, like honey. And so, therefore, the devotees of Krishna are the most fortunate because they're relishing Krishna in this Leela Madhuri. They're relishing his sweetness and his beauty, his kindness, all of these things. So it's really sweet to think about that and meditate on this, that we're fortunate to be able to, worship Krishna in this way. And, we get to see Krishna every morning in his Vrindavan form. Of course, we worship him in a very opulent way, but we see him in his Vrindavan form. We see him with Radharani. And we get to hear the Krishna book. We meditate on these, Sri Radhika Madhavayor Apara, Madhurya Leela, Guna Rupa Namnam. So there's this emphasis. We sing to Tulsi Devi, I want to be all over the coward dance of Braj. And so in this way, we're really meditating on this Vrindavan mood. And that shouldn't be forgotten at any point in our Krishna consciousness, that we may not be, we shouldn't jump the gun and think that we're gopis or we're coward boys or something like that. This is a very kind of mistake. Because the real symptom of bhava is not your tears and your jumping and your, it's your desire to serve. If you serve all day and you minimize your sleeping, you minimize your eating, you minimize your bodily activities as much as possible, and in that way serve Krishna, then that's a symptom of bhava. We can see that's the real way to see an advanced devotee. We can just see a Mother Sundamani. This is a person who's fully absorbed in serving Krishna. Or our Godbrother Krishna Charan, is very absorbed in this service attitude, Krishna consciousness. So, we don't want to jump the gun. And so the basic element is service. And in time, one develops this raga bhakti. They become aware and they start to serve Krishna in a certain mood. But it all stems from our absorption in chanting and our absorption in hearing, and then that leads to serving and to making plans and to preaching. Preaching is, of course, done in the Madhurya Ras. Prabhupada said that preaching, book distribution is done in the mood of the gopis. So we take that enthusiasm to assist the preachers and to assist Prabhupada in preaching. And, we don't have to be a class giver or a book distributor necessarily to have this mood. When we're thinking in terms of how am I spreading Krishna consciousness and how am I contributing to that, then that gives us a lot of special mercy. So we'll end here with that. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Chananda Gopakumara Govindaya Namo. And we'll continue next week with these beautiful prayers of Queen Kunti. Unless there's any questions or comments.